I was walking home from the late shift at the hospital. The streets were empty except for a few cars passing by, their headlights briefly illuminating the sidewalk before plunging me back into darkness. It was around 2 a.m. when I noticed someone walking about 30 feet ahead of me. Same height, same build, same navy blue scrubs I was wearing. I quickened my pace, curious about this coincidence. The figure turned into an alley just before I could catch up. When I reached the alley entrance, it was empty, dead end, nowhere to go. I brushed it off as exhaustion playing tricks on my mind. 12-hour shifts will do that to you. 2 days later I saw them again, this time at the grocery store. I was picking out apples when I glimpsed someone identical to me in my peripheral vision. Same hairstyle, same green jacket I was wearing. When I turned to look directly, they disappeared behind a cereal aisle. I abandoned my cart and ran to catch them, but found only an elderly woman examining nutrition labels. "Did you see someone come this way?" I asked her. "Just you, dear," she replied with a confused smile. I started noticing other things. Colleagues at work mentioning conversations we never had. My neighbour thanking me for help carrying groceries on a day I was working. My mother calling to ask why I hadn't shown up for our lunch date when I had no knowledge of making such plans. "You texted me yesterday to meet at Cafe Lucia," she insisted. I waited for an hour. I checked my phone. No such text existed in my message history. Last week I decided to set up a camera in my apartment. I needed to know if I was losing my mind or if something more sinister was happening. The footage showed nothing unusual for 2 nights. On the 3rd night, I woke to the sound of my front door closing. I checked the time, 3:17 a.m. Heart racing, I grabbed my phone and pulled up the live feed from the camera. There I was walking through my living room, but I was also in bed watching this footage. The me on camera moved differently. The posture was mine, but the movements were slightly off, smoother, more deliberate. I walked to my kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and stared inside for nearly 5 minutes without moving. Then it took out nothing, closed the door, and walked into my bedroom, and walked into my bathroom. I was paralysed with fear, unable to move as I watched this thing that looked exactly like me through my phone screen. After 20 minutes it emerged from the bathroom and walked directly towards the camera. Its face, my face, wore an expression I've never made. Head slightly tilted, eyes too wide, mouth curved in an unnatural smile. It reached up and adjusted the camera angle slightly. Then it whispered something I couldn't quite hear and left the apartment. The next morning I called in sick to work. I needed time to process what I'd seen. Around noon my phone rang. It was my supervisor. "Thanks for coming in early to cover Lisa's shift," she said. "I know you weren't feeling well yesterday, so it means a lot." "I didn't come in," I said, my blood running cold. "I'm home right now." There was a long pause. "That's not possible. I'm looking at you right now. You're at the nurse's station." I hung up and checked the camera footage from the previous night again. This time I noticed something I'd missed. When it adjusted the camera, it revealed a small notebook on my coffee table. I never keep notebooks there. I rushed to my living room. There it was, open to a page with writing in my handwriting. I've been watching you for so long, learning to be you, your mannerisms, your expressions, your life. But you're so imperfect, so flawed. I can be better than you. I already am being a better you. Your friends prefer me. Your mother appreciates my punctuality. Your colleagues admire my efficiency. Soon, no one will notice when you're gone completely. P.S. Did you know you talk in your sleep? I've learned so much just listening to you dream. That was 2 days ago. Since then, I've seen it 4 more times. Yesterday, I followed it. It went to my favourite coffee shop, chatted with the barista who knows me by name, and went to an apartment 6 blocks from mine. I watched through the window as it sat down at a desk and began writing in an identical notebook. I'm typing this from a motel room now. I've called in sick again, but my supervisor says I'm there, working, interacting with patients, performing surgeries. I don't know what this thing is or what it wants, but it's systematically replacing me piece by piece, and it's doing a better job at being me than I ever did. Tonight, I'm going back to that department. I need to confront it, to understand, to stop it before I disappear completely. But I'm terrified of what I'll find, because deep down I'm starting to wonder, what if I'm not the original? What if I'm the copyright, the imperfect one? What if I'm the doppelganger? Update: I'm at the apartment now. There's no one here, but I found dozens of notebooks. Each one contains detailed observations about different people, different lives being studied, and on the desk there's a mirror. When I look into it, sometimes I see my reflection, and sometimes for just a split second I see something else looking back. I think it's coming home now. I can hear footsteps outside the door. They sound exactly like mine. My parents thought it was cute when I was 4 and talked about my twin brother who lived in the mirror. "Tell us about your friend, sweetie," Mom said, crouching down to my eye level while I brushed my teeth. "He looks just like me," I'd explain, pointing at my reflection. "But he's sadder, and he never talks back when I talk to him." Dad would chuckle and ruffle my hair. "That's your reflection, buddy. It's supposed to look like you." But I knew better. Reflections were supposed to copy what you did right. This boy in the mirror sometimes moved a second too late. Sometimes he'd tilt his head the wrong way, and sometimes, when my parents weren't looking, he'd mouthed words that didn't match what I was saying. When I turned 5, I started seeing him outside of mirrors. The first time was during my birthday party. All the kids from my kindergarten were in our backyard, and Mom was bringing out my dinosaur cake. I was so excited I ran towards the sliding glass door to see it better, but I stopped dead when I saw another little boy standing behind the oak tree at the edge of our yard. He was wearing the same red Superman shirt I had on, same messy brown hair, same gap between his front teeth. But while I was bouncing with excitement, he stood perfectly still, just watching the party with those sad eyes I'd seen in the mirror. "Mom," I called out, pointing towards the tree. "Look, my twin brother came to my party." But when everyone turned to look, he was gone. "There's nobody there, honey," Mom said gently. "Would you like to make a wish on your cake?" The other kids started whispering about how weird I was. After that day, I learned to keep quiet about what I saw. But he kept appearing. In 1st grade, I'd catch glimpses of him through the classroom window during recess, standing alone by the fence while I played with my friends. He never smiled when I smiled, never ran when I ran. He just watched with this expression that made my stomach feel funny, like he was disappointed in me. When I was 7, my family moved to a new house across town. I hoped maybe the move would help me leave him behind. On our first night in a new place, I woke up to use the bathroom and saw him standing at the end of the hallway. In the darkness, he looked more real than ever before, more solid. I rubbed my eyes thinking I was dreaming, but when I opened them, he was still there. This time he raised his hand and waved at me, a slow, deliberate wave that didn't match how I would wave at all. I ran back to my room and hid under the covers until morning. Just nightmares, Mom assured me when I tried to explain. New house jitters, it'll pass. It didn't pass, it got worse. By age 9, I started noticing that he wasn't just watching anymore, he was interacting with my world. My teacher, Mrs. Henderson, pulled me aside after class one day. "Tommy, your mother called to ask about the incident yesterday during lunch," she said. "But according to my records, you were in a nurse's office with a stomachache. How could you have gotten in trouble for starting a food fight?" I had been in a nurse's office. I remembered lying on the cot, holding my stomach, wishing I could go home. But apparently another version of me had been in a cafeteria throwing mashed potatoes at Jessica. "I don't know," I whispered, because how do you explain something like this? The phone calls from school became more frequent, reports of me doing things I'd never done. My parents grew frustrated and confused. They started taking me to doctors, first our paediatrician, then a child psychologist, then specialists who made me draw pictures and talk about my feelings. Nobody believed me when I tried to explain about my other self. When I turned 12, I decided to try communicating with him directly. I set up my dad's old video camera in my room, pointed at the mirror, and stayed up all night waiting. Around 3 a.m, I saw him appear in a reflection. But this time he stepped forward until his face was pressed against the glass from the other side. His mouth moved, and though I couldn't hear him through the mirror, I could read his lips, "Let me out." The next morning I checked the video. The footage showed me standing in front of the mirror for hours, apparently talking to my own reflection, but there were moments, brief ones, where the reflection seemed to lag behind my movements by several seconds. In 8th grade, the incidents escalated. I was suspended for vandalising the gym, though I'd been home sick with flu. My best friend Jake stopped talking to me after I allegedly told his girlfriend I had a crush on her, a conversation I swear never happened. My parents found cigarettes in my backpack that I'd never seen before. "We're worried about you," Dad said during one of our family meetings. "They're lying about things you've clearly done. We think you might benefit from residential treatment." "I'm not lying," I screamed. "It's not me doing these things." But how could I prove it? How could I explain that there was another version of me living parallel to my life, making different choices, interacting with people in ways that reflected back on me? Last month something changed. I woke up one morning and felt different, lighter somehow. I looked in the bathroom mirror and saw only my reflection, normal, predictable, copying my every movement. For the first time in over a decade, I was alone. I should have been relieved. Instead, I was terrified. Because yesterday, my mom mentioned running into me at the mall when I was supposed to be at school, and my girlfriend texted me asking why I'd ignored her at the movies on Saturday when I'd been home all weekend. I think I know what happened. I think when I refused to let him out of the mirror all those years ago, he found another way. He didn't need me to open a door between our worlds. He just needed to wait until I was weak enough, distracted enough, tired enough from fighting him. Now I think he's out there, living my life better than I ever did, while I'm trapped somewhere else. Somewhere that looks exactly like my world but feels hollow and empty, like a reflection of reality rather than reality itself. The worst part is that everyone prefers him to me. My grades are better now, my parents tell people, I'm more confident, more social. My girlfriend says I seem happier, more mature. I'm writing this from what I think is my bedroom, though sometimes the furniture seems slightly wrong. The posters on my walls show bands I don't remember liking. I can still see into the real world sometimes, through mirrors and windows, watching him live the life I should be living. He was right to be sad all those years. He was watching someone else be him, trapped and powerless to change it. Now I understand how that feels. Sometimes I press my hands against mirrors and mouth the same words he used to, let me out. But nothing can see me anymore. Nobody except a new kid in my neighbourhood, a little girl, maybe 5 years old. Yesterday I saw her pointing at her bedroom window where I was standing, trying to get her parents' attention. There's a boy in the glass, she told her mother. He looks sad. I think I'm going to be here for a very long time. My brother died when we were 7, but he never really left. Marcus and I were identical twins, the kind that even our parents sometimes mixed up. We had the same cowlick that made our hair stick up on the left side, the same scar on our right knee from learning to ride bikes, the same habit of biting our bottom lip when we concentrated. We were two halves of the same whole, finishing each other's sentences and sharing dreams that were so similar it scared our mum. The accident happened on a Tuesday. Marcus was crossing the street to get our ball, and the driver never saw him coming. I watched my other half disappear under the wheels of a blue sedan, and something inside me broke that day, something that never healed right. At the funeral, I kept expecting Marcus to tap me on the shoulder and tell me if it was all an elaborate prank. That's the kind of thing we would have done to each other, but the casket stayed closed and Marcus stayed gone. Or so I thought. The first time I saw him again was 3 weeks after the burial. I was sitting in our bedroom, my bedroom now, trying to do homework that felt pointless without Marcus there to copy from. I looked up and saw him sitting on his bed, still wearing the red Pokemon shirt he died in, watching me with those familiar brown eyes. "Marcus," I whispered. He smiled, that crooked grin that was exactly like mine, and pointed towards the window. When I turned to look, there was nothing there. When I turned back, neither was he. I told my parents, of course. They exchanged those worried glances adults make when they think you can't see them. More therapy sessions, more doctors asking me to draw pictures of my feelings. Everyone agreed it was normal for me to see my twin after such trauma. But normal grieving hallucinations don't leave footprints in the garden outside your window. They don't eat the sandwiches you leave out for them. They don't rearrange your toys when you're sleeping. By the time I turned 10, I'd accepted that Marcus was still around. He appeared more frequently, always wearing the same red shirt, always looking exactly as he had the day he died. He never spoke, but I could feel what he was thinking. That twin telepathy everyone always joked about hadn't died with him. He was lonely and he was angry. "Why did you get to live?" I could feel him ask during those long nights when he'd sit at the foot of my bed staring at me with eyes that held too much adult sadness for a 7-year-old face. Why you and not me? I didn't have an answer. When I started middle school, things got complicated. Marcus began appearing at school. At first it was just glimpses in a hallway, a flash of red shirt ducking around a corner, a familiar figure reflected in classroom windows. But then teachers started mentioning seeing me in places I'd never been. "Great job on the presentation in Mrs. Walsh's class yesterday," my maths teacher said one morning. I'd never been in Mrs. Walsh's class. I didn't even know who Mrs. Walsh was. The incidents multiplied. I was supposedly seen in a library during lunch when I was actually in a cafeteria. Other students claim I talked to them about things I'd never discussed. My locker was found open with books I'd never checked out inside. "Are you sleepwalking?" Mum asked after the school called about me being found in the gymnasium at 6 a.m, though I distinctly remembered eating breakfast at home that entire morning. I wasn't sleepwalking. Marcus was living. The realization hit me during 8th grade. I was walking past a memorial garden the school had planted for students who died, and I saw him there. Not translucent or flickering like a ghost in movies, but solid and real, placing flowers on a small plaque with his name on it. But here's what made my blood freeze. He wasn't 7 anymore. He'd aged. He looked exactly like me, 14, taller, wearing clothes I recognised from my own closet. When he noticed me watching, he didn't vanish. Instead, he walked over with that same crooked smile. "Hey brother," he said, and his voice was my voice, deeper now but unmistakably ours. "We need to talk." I followed him behind the school building, my heart hammering against my ribs. "I've been watching you live my life," he said, leaning against the brick wall with a casualness that felt wrong. "You got everything I was supposed to have, our parents' love, our friends, our future, while I've been stuck in this half-existence, only able to touch the world in fragments." "You're dead," I whispered. "Am I?" He gestured to himself. "I can eat, I can touch things, I can talk to people. Some days I feel more real than you do." That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. We were exactly identical, down to the same mole above our left eyebrow and the way our left ear stuck out slightly more than our right. But there was one difference. He was wearing my clothes, the exact outfit I'd put on that morning. I looked down at myself and saw unfamiliar clothes, a red Pokemon shirt I hadn't worn in years. "What did you do?" I asked. "What I should have done years ago," Marcus said. "I took back what was mine. You've been living in my shadow for so long, you forgot which one of us was real." The world tilted, memories felt fuzzy around the edges. Had I been at breakfast that morning? Or had I been standing in the same spot, wearing the same red shirt for the past 7 years? "I'm not dead," I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. "Neither am I, not anymore." Marcus, or was I Marcus, stepped closer. "The question is, which one of us deserves to keep living?" I tried to remember the accident clearly. Had I been the one running after the ball? Had I been the one who looked both ways before crossing? The memories were blurring together, and I couldn't tell which ones were mine and which were his. "You can't do this," I said, backing away. "I already did." He pulled out a phone, my phone, and showed me the screen. Social media accounts with my name, my friends commenting on posts I didn't remember making. Pictures of me at places I'd never been, doing things I'd never done. Everyone knows me as the real one now. I have your memories, your relationships, your life. You're just the shadow. I looked at my hands and saw they were becoming translucent around the edges. "This is impossible," I whispered. "Is it?" We were identical twins. Same DNA, same face, same soul split between two bodies. When one of us died, did you really think the universe would just let half a soul disappear forever? I was fading. I could feel it happening. Not dying exactly, but becoming less solid, less real. Like I was being erased from the world while he took my place in it. "Please," I begged, "I don't want to disappear." "Neither did I," he said softly, "but one of us has to be the ghost." That was 3 months ago. Now I'm the one who appears in reflections and peripheral vision. I'm the one who can only touch the world in fragments, leaving footsteps in the garden and rearranging objects when no one's looking. I watch Marcus live my life better than I ever did. He's more confident, more social. Our parents comment on how much happier I seem lately, how I've really come into my own since starting high school. My grades are better, I have more friends. Everyone prefers him to me. The worst part is that I'm starting to forget which memories are real. Did I really cross the street that day? Or did I watch from the sidewalk as my brother died? Am I the twin who lived, or the twin who's been dead for 8 years and just too stubborn to realise it? Sometimes I catch glimpses of other children around town. Translucent kids in outdated clothes, watching the living world with hungry eyes. I think there are more of us than people realise. Kids who die too young, clinging to life through sheer willpower and the inability to accept that their story is over. But most of them fade eventually. They let go and move on to whatever comes next. I'm not ready to let go, even if I am dead. Even if I'm just a ghost wearing a 7-year-old's Pokemon shirt for eternity, this is still my life he's living. This is still my future he's stealing one day at a time. I've been practicing, learning to be more solid, more real. Some days I can hold objects for almost an hour. Some days strangers can see me clearly enough to have conversations. I'm getting stronger while he's getting comfortable, assuming he's won. But identical twins share everything, including the connection between life and death. If he could pull himself back into the living world by force of will, then maybe I can too. Maybe there's room for both of us after all. I just need to wait for the right moment to remind him that we've always shared everything, and I'm not about to let him keep my life all to himself. After all, what's mine is his, and what's his is mine. That's what being twins meant. I knew something was wrong when my parents started praising me for things I'd never done. "Thank you for cleaning your room without being asked, sweetie," Mum said over breakfast, beaming at me with pride I didn't deserve. The room was a disaster zone. Had been for weeks. I hadn't cleaned anything. "I'm getting an A+ on your chemistry test," Dad added, ruffling my hair. "We're so proud of how hard you've been studying." I'd failed that test. I remembered staring at the questions, knowing I was screwed, accepting my fate as a disappointment once again. But when I checked my backpack later, there it was, my chemistry test with a bright red A+ and a smiley face sticker. In my handwriting, but neater somehow, more careful. That night, I decided to stay awake and see what was happening. I set up my phone to record, then pretended to sleep while keeping one eye barely open. Around 2 a.m, I heard my bedroom door creak. That night, I decided to stay awake and see what was happening. I set up my phone to record, then pretended to sleep while keeping one eye barely open. Around 2 a.m, I heard my bedroom door creak. Someone walked in, someone who moved exactly like me, but with better posture. In the dim light from my phone's camera, I could see her clearly. She looked exactly like me, down to the small freckle on my left shoulder and the scar on my chin from falling off my bike in 3rd grade. But her hair was brushed, her pyjamas were clean, and she moved with a confidence I'd never possessed. She went straight to my desk and began organising my homework. Not just organising, completing it. Maths problems I'd given up on, an English essay I'd barely started, science worksheets I'd forgotten existed. Her handwriting was mine, but more legible, her answers correct where mine had been wrong. When she finished, she cleaned my room with methodical precision. Clothes folded and put away, books arranged by subject, trash emptied. She even made my bed around me, careful not to wake me. Before leaving, she stood by my dresser and stared into the mirror for a long moment. In the reflection, I could see her face clearly, my face, but wearing an expression I'd never made, satisfied, proud, complete. The next morning, I confronted my parents. "Honey, we saw you studying until midnight," Mum insisted. "You've been so responsible lately." They weren't lying. They genuinely believed they'd seen me working hard, being the daughter they've always wanted, the daughter I'd never been able to be. Over the following weeks, I started noticing other changes. Teachers complimented my improved participation in classes I'd slept through. Friends thanked me for advice I'd never given. My crush Jake started smiling at me in the hallways after conversations I don't remember having. She was living my life better than I ever had. The worst part wasn't the identity theft. It was the realization that everyone preferred her version of me. My parents were happier, my grades were better, I had more friends. Even when I was starting to like the person she was pretending to be. But she was getting bolder. I'd catch glimpses of her during the day now, in bathroom mirrors, reflected in windows, standing behind me in group photos that somehow only showed one of us. She was becoming more solid, while I felt increasingly transparent. Last week I tried to confront her directly. I stayed awake and spoke when she entered my room. "I know you're there," I whispered. "What do you want?" She paused in her cleaning and turned to face me. Then she smiled. When she smiled, it was my mouth, but not my warmth. "I want to be you," she said in my voice, "but better, the version parents deserve, the version you could never be." "This is my life," I argued. "Is it?" She gestured around the pristine room. "When's the last time you earned praise that wasn't mine? When's the last time you made your parents proud without my help?" I couldn't answer because she was right. "I'm not taking anything from you," she continued. "I'm giving you everything you always wanted: success, approval, love. All you have to do is let me handle the hard parts." Now I understand why she appears at night. She's not trying to replace me. She's trying to complete me. To be the better half I never developed, the potential I never reached. But I'm starting to wonder, if she's everything good about me, what does that make me? And what happens when there's nothing left for the worse half to do?